connected with all the extraordinary paranormal experiences I was having. I had a UFO come in over the house, over the estate, and illuminate a TV antenna. We took that for image analysis, and the guy who did the image analysis said that that indeed was a UFO. And somebody who worked in Army intelligence, who I used to work with, who commented to me, because I put a website up on the internet, Paul, which was frankly bollocks. It was 1999, and I put this website up, which talked about me assuming to know what was going on when I didn't. And as this guy said to me, that will attract people out of the woodwork. And sure enough, boy oh boy, Paul, did they come out of the woodwork. I started getting phone calls, I started being followed, and I started being subjected to horrendous mind-invasive technology. Absolutely horrendous. There is a tyranny out there. It is carefully hidden. It is now coming into plain view, and its engine is specifically driven to control. The situation at the moment, I think, I'm going slightly off piece here, is that the people in power have not got a clue. And I'm sure you would agree with me that they have not got a clue what is controlling them. And you see a lot of Illuminati symbolism in the pop music industry with the famous all-seeing eye and the horn symbol, that famous kind of occult, I think it's that occult saying, we approve of his presence on high, as in the coming of the Antichrist. And I discovered, because of all my UFO interactions and strange experiences, that I had swallowed a red pill. And whether I liked it or not, I was truly seeing the world around me for what it really was, that humanity was being controlled. And so I was followed in pubs, I had phone calls, I had an unmarked helicopter film me. We had to take that to Jane's Defence Weekly, should I say I did. We took that to Jane's Defence Weekly. They looked at it and they said that the helicopter that filmed you is an AS-555. It's a Special Forces helicopter that is unique to the governments of the US and Canada. If you look in any of the kit that the RAF have, the RAF don't have this particular helicopter. And a Lynx pilot looked at it and said it was equipped with a winch and was a sliding door variant, which was also pointed out by Jane's Defence Weekly, that it had a sliding door variation, which was very unique on this type of helicopter. It was green and it was unmarked, and it was at the height of these UFOs coming over my home. And I couldn't quite piece together at that time in 1999 why they were doing that. But I ended up being targeted by very mind-invasive technology, nasty stuff, followed into pubs by, we would call them, intelligence operatives. And you may think that this is an extremely kooky story made up to sell books, to sell my latest book, etc., etc., but it isn't. I had a responsible job, Paul, and I had to leave that because of it all. There was one morning I was actually attacked by this mind-invasive technology in about January 2001, and I actually thought that I was going to die. On many occasions I've sailed close to the wind with these situations because there is a firm cover-up in place for the wrong reasons. And the people in power, what they're doing at the moment, they don't know what they're doing, and this will have consequences. And this is what the UFOs were apparently, should I say, pointing out. On the internet, you have things like the Ashtar Command and other things that talk of the alien beings being love and light. And that's not necessarily true. There's serious ethical issues involved in these UFOs and what is going on, as well as secretive government agencies in the US and the UK. The US intelligence discovered to their horror in 1950 what perhaps the UFO phenomenon was all about, and it took me years to concur this. So that's the kind of like the background, Paul. Good grief, I've waffled on for nearly 11 minutes. So that's kind of like the background to what is going on. And I'm suffering post-traumatic stress disorder from all this, as is quite a few people who have been subjected to it. But it's the harassment, Paul. It's nasty, and they're very nasty people behind it. And I was told that they wanted this kept quiet.
But Tony, I mean, what do you say in response to people who question, I mean, why would they harass you? Why follow you? Why you in particular?
Well, they don't just harass me, though, Paul. It's not me in particular that they harass. If you look at the bigger picture, you soon discover that other researchers were being harassed. There was a guy in New Zealand who keeps himself quiet now called Alec Newell, who wrote a book called Co-Evolution. He was harassed. He had people from the Royal Institute of International Affairs, which I'm sure you're familiar with, Paul, and the Australian Defence Research people turn up on his doorstep asking why his car, wanting to confiscate his car, because his car had been subjected to high electrical voltage. The story of Alec Newell is he was driving down the road in 1996, something like that, and he went missing for 10 days. And he didn't know where he was. As far as he was concerned, he thought he was in a car accident. He had two ghostly figures walking towards him, and he thought they were ghosts because he thought he was dead. But they weren't ghosts; they were aliens. He'd been dimensionally transferred into another environment, and so he got harassment, and he got stitched up with a prison sentence. Another woman called Dr. Carla Turner, who I highly recommend in the United States. She was right on the money, I think, with what was happening. She's certainly been harassed. Dr. Stephen Greer has certainly been harassed. But it's when it gets mind-invasive, Paul, when they start the mind-invasive stuff, as reported by a lot of people, that's when it really does get particularly nasty, and you have all on trying to keep sane with it all, and all on trying to cope with it. There's a very real conspiracy, a very real one indeed, to which the material of InfoWars and the conspiracy of UFOs do merge. It's the same control.
Let's bring it back to that convergence which you mentioned at the start of the show. Back in August, the New York Times writer and economist Paul Krugman said the following on CNN. This is a quote. Quote, "If we discovered that space aliens were planning to attack and we needed a massive build-up to counter the space alien threat, and rally and budget deficits took secondary place to that, this slump," he's talking about the economic slump, "would be over in 18 months. And then if we discovered, oops, we made a mistake, there aren't any aliens, we'd be better." Now, we've heard the famous Reagan quote in a similar context where he's speaking during the Cold War about, you know, this alien threat. If we had this alien threat, it would band us all together. To your mind, Tony, is this notion that they'd fake an alien threat to get this world government to achieve their political agenda too far-fetched, or is it something we can actually expect to see at some point down the line?
Well, I'm going to shock your listeners, Paul, because I've had nearly I've got a big world view on this, and I've had nearly a lifetime of experience in dealing with all this. The man doesn't know simply what he's talking about, and it's just a pity that there isn't some guys from the military who deal with UFOs and kind of like are on a similar theme to me. How can I describe how this scenario could come about from my own experiences? No, there will not be a staged alien invasion. There isn't going to be one. The back-engineered technology projects that are going on, and there's a possible liaison between the United States governments and them. They know the drill. These aliens, they were aliens. You call them aliens, but in fact they're people like us, Paul. A bit more intelligent, a bit taller, a bit different looking, but they're savvy people. They know the drill. This is the thing that I've picked up from my experiences, and it is this. At the moment, if you look at situations in Libya, where they went into Libya, and I'm sure you will agree, this was if you could call it a Rothschild land grab of the highest degree, where they bombed the water supply, bombed the innocent women and children. In the UK media, this was paraded as freedom, as freeing the people of Libya. And as we well know, this created a condition, Paul, of carnage. Now the place is unlawful. Iraq, carnage. Afghanistan, carnage, but yet at the very top, lucrative business contracts, lucrative profits, and so on and so forth. These men who control this power, people like Tony Blair, who courted Gaddafi, I'm coming to my point in a minute, he courted Colonel Gaddafi very closely, he was going to stitch him up, and he probably knew this, and all those type of men who are in power and follow this agenda and do the bidding for the agenda have created an environment an environment that could manifest conditions for the second coming of an Antichrist. And boy, oh boy, they don't know what they're doing, they don't know what power they're dealing with, and karma is a very funny thing. And so it won't be a faked alien invasion that we will have to deal with. It would be the manifestation of an Antichrist that we would have to deal with, coming from a direction that we in the UK or the US government would not see coming, because there is a saying in the intelligence company, the enemy is in front of you, but the buggers are behind you. And in this scenario, what's going on in our world currently, the buggers are certainly behind us. And so that is my opinion. It won't be a faked alien invasion. It will be a sudden and very shocking situation that we will have to deal with, triggered by various events that seem to just that are malevolence that are going on at the moment. Everything from the Illuminati to the child sacrifice to the bank heist that's going on at the moment create an environment, a signal in time, as it were, Paul, that can escalate and amplify and turn into something very nasty and then turn upon us. And that is what I've picked up from the UFO experiences that I have had.
Here's a quote from, regarding the false Antichrist second coming, the technology to do mass projections in the sky of that kind of event was available 20, 30 years ago.
No, Paul, I must caution you on that. This is very serious. No, you may say that, you may dismiss it as it being technology. This is not about technology. This is about an element of the mind, an element of biophysical reality that we do not understand. This is about unknown forces that will manifest, paranormal unknown forces, not technology, but paranormal unknown forces, which is why we're being warned by them, continually warned, because all is linked to all, and this is like a signal line in time that's coming back at us. This is like a paranormal, how can I put it, the Matrix meets Inception kind of thing that I that was tossed into in a situation that I did not understand. Don't dismiss it, Paul, because it's absolutely lethal. The situation could develop into something that's lethal.
Well, I'm not dismissing it. I'm just saying they've got the capability to do it. But I asked for people to give questions on Facebook. One of the key questions is, when people report UFOs and speculate their origin is extraterrestrial, isn't that very useful for governments that want to keep black budget programs under wraps? I mean, we had the B-2 stealth bomber that was being tested 10 years before it was made public. How many of these UFO reports are merely people misidentifying the latest stealth fighter, the latest technology upgrade for the US military or other militaries?
Quite a few. Do excuse me, Paul, if I come across as maybe being, what's the word, irritated slightly, because I've got a bit of a do going on with all this, and it's a very difficult situation to be in, and sometimes I'm not myself. So you obviously did understand what I was saying about the Antichrist, and you weren't dismissing it. I can clearly see that. Yes. So the question was UFOs, black governments, all that kind of thing. Yes, it is a benefit to them. It certainly is. Nick Pope in the UK would argue that these classified craft that fly around, these black budget craft that are flying about, are in fact in designated top secret zones that are not over UK populations. However, in America, as is clearly seen, some of these triangles that are flying over in fleets of 12 or more are going across populated areas, and there seems to be no real explanation of it. And yes, it certainly does benefit governments. I would suggest it certainly does.
But I mean, with the black triangles, the UK Ministry of Defence said that their explanation was people were hallucinating plasma. I mean, these black triangles are physical craft. That's been seen on radar. I've seen them personally several years ago. But I think from that perspective, it's likely to be the latest, stealth fighter, the latest top secret technology, as you just mentioned. But I mean, again, on a similar topic with these abduction experiences, wouldn't the cover of alien abduction, and I know this has been covered in the UFO research community, wouldn't that be a perfect disguise for governments to carry out mass human experimentation while blaming it on some off-planetary excuse in the entertainment media and mass media in general?
Yes, it would be, Paul. It would be very valid, but it depends what government you're talking about, because there's white government and black governments, as you rightly know. So I think it depends what faction is which. I think that the factions, the agencies, the clandestineness and the secrecy involved in the UFO cover-up across the world means that the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. Therefore, you could not get a coherent operation together to deceive en masse, because it's probably not quite as easy as it looks. Not only that, people are having visitations of a peaceful nature. What is of more concern, as you have rightly said, is the media cranking the fear element up of the UFO situation. I run the gauntlet because I've had on a number of occasions, I was attacked twice now by